Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to Bluecore for inviting me to join you today. I am thrilled to be here. It's a beautiful morning in New York. And with apologies to Charles Dickens, I'm actually going to start with a little reference because I feel like we are in a tale of two retails right now. It is the best of times for many of us, for the industry overall. Retail has grown $50 billion in the last 5 years and was up almost 5% just this summer. But then it is also the worst of times, and we are watching stores close from brands that have been around and have led retail for decades. So I want to think a little bit about what's happening here. And some of these trends we've been touching on already this morning. So let me just give you some Forrester language, some definitions to help you think a little bit about what's happening and why. So Forrester finds that there are three macro dynamics that are playing out across industries, but that are driving that tale of two retail experience that you're in the middle of. The first of these trends is something we call consumer hyperadoption. Faiz mentioned this morning. He was talking about Consumer 3.0. So we find that the proliferation of low-cost technology is actually changing the way people adopt new experiences. And this idea of being able to try something new without a cost associated makes people hyper-adoptive. Not only is there no risk associated with trying something new, we in fact demand something new. You see this playing out in all kinds of new technologies, new experiences. But perhaps the most poignant way you see this playing out is that people are no longer very loyal. Because if we don't get new experiences from our established group of brand partners, we move on to other companies where we can. The second dimension that is playing out here is something Forrester calls digital disruption. Now, this is the business response to that same low-cost, plentiful technology challenge that's creating hyper-adoption on the consumer side. Digital disruption is businesses leveraging technology to create different business models. And you see this playing out with disruptors, certainly many in your industry, but you also see this playing out with incumbent companies, companies like GE, who are undertaking something they call their digital industrial transformation. They're hiring more software engineers than mechanical engineers today to try to figure out how they can disrupt their role as a manufacturer. So consumer hyperadoption and digital disruption together are shining a very bright light on this third trend, something that you know very well, customer experience. Customer experience becomes very profound in this era because it is perhaps the only thing that can uniquely differentiate you in an era of very disloyal customers and very disruptive competition, potentially coming from unexpected places. The challenge, though, and I think why we're experiencing this tale of two retails, is because even though global executives tell us that customer experience is their #1 corporate priority this year, most companies are actually very bad at it. So Sarah mentioned in my bio that I spend a lot of time thinking about this concept called customer obsession. It's the notion that businesses must put the customer at the center of their entire operating model. That isn't just about shining up experiences that maybe have a bit of friction. This is about pivoting your business model so that every decision you make has the customer at the center. And just this summer, I did a study to figure out how good companies were at doing that. And you can see from my bell curve here that the companies that are the best, the companies that are on the far side of my bell curve, actually represent only about 15% of enterprise companies. Now, maybe even more disappointing is that customer experiences are actually holding flat and have been for the last 3 years. Even companies that are good at customer experience aren't getting any better. So this leads to lots of the notions that we've been talking about this morning and some of the challenges that you are facing that brought you to this event today. In its Sea of Sameness study, Shake Marketing actually found that 94% of us tune out messages from marketers because they don't relate to us. They're focused on business goals. They're focused on hawking product or promoting benefits, but they're not focused on what we want to hear. So it seems to me like our current efforts are somehow out of sync with what our customers actually want. So I started thinking, well, I watch marketers doing a lot of things, trying to be more customer obsessed. And maybe some of these things are things you're doing today too. Maybe you are amassing data. You're trying to collect a lot of things to understand your customers. Why? To make them do what you want them to do, not to help them get what they need. Maybe you're micro-targeting. Maybe you're automating and outsourcing. Maybe you're trying to tether to a set of values that you think relate to your customers. But all the while this is happening, customers are actually craving privacy. There's this phenomenon that's happening today that is, the more data becomes available about me, the more private I feel about it. The less interested I am in having you know everything about me. Your customers are also feeling just a bit harassed. I mean, how many times do I have to take a survey when I leave a website about my experience on the website? Your customers might also demand accountability. So thanks very much for tying to one of my values. I want to see you live it. How are you actually representing the thing that matters most to me and to my tribe? And your customers might also presume a lot of inauthentic experiences out there. I feel like you might just be doing it to make me buy your thing, not because you really care about me or the things that matter to me. So Bluecore actually commissioned Forrester to figure out why this is happening. So why does it seem like our best efforts, the things we think we mean to do to help us become more customer obsessed, actually are in conflict with the things our customers care the most about? So we did a custom survey. This is fresh. We just finished it. In July, we actually surveyed 300 retailers, folks like you, across US and Western Europe. Most of our sample was director level and above, so focusing on this analyze, decide, and act folks, the people in the roles who are playing those decisions. And we asked them questions about how they were creating customer-obsessed marketing programs, and maybe what was limiting them from being better at those efforts. And I want to share with you what we found, the challenges, the opportunity, and then also recommend a solution, something for you to think about today and to discuss with the Bluecore folks as you go through the rest of the event. So finding number one was that retailers wholeheartedly believe that omni-channel and personalized experiences are critical to their success. So when we ask this sample, how important do you think driving seamless omni-channel experiences and personalized experiences are? 81% said important or very important from the omni-channel side, and 78% said important or very important on the personalization side. Sound like you would agree? The problem, though, is that when we clicked into the operations here, only a handful of this sample was actually good at either one. That might feel familiar too. So we asked them to tell us, how would you rate your own organization's ability at delivering omni-channel experiences or personalized experiences? And you can see that just 12% of retailers are actually good, effective at delivering personalized experiences. So I wanted to drill into why. What is it that is keeping this from working better? And a lot of our findings are consistent with some of the examples that you saw Max represent in their product roadmap. Some of the things that are just flat missing today from the ability to actually create personalized experiences. So problem number one lands around data management. Data management tasks are getting the better of retailers. And let me just point you to a few data points here that stood out to me. First is that there's no percentage on this list that is greater than about a third. So when we asked retailers to tell us, how confident are you in your company's ability to do a list of data management tasks that are really essential for personalization, the top two only got about a third of, yeah, we're good at it. And that was around frequency and customer segmentation. In every other place, we were looking at just a quarter of respondents or less. So just about a quarter of respondents say that they are good at journey management, 22% good at identity resolution, and then look at this, 16% good at product optimization, and 13% good at data hygiene. So data management is throwing people off, hanging people up, keeping retailers from moving in a personalization direction. Part of the reason for this is because the IT support that they rely on is far from dedicated. So also included in this sample were IT colleagues, folks that were dedicated to retailer support. And we asked them, how much time during the week are you spending responding to your marketer partners or your retail e-commerce colleagues' requests? And you can see here that almost 2/3, 63% of our sample, said that they're actually spending 10 hours or less a week on their requests. In fact, we've got about 16% that are spending less than a week. So this, I think, is because the responsibility for data management is distributed across a lot of different functional areas. So we also asked respondents to complete a RACI chart for us, responsible, accountable, consultant, or informed, when it came to data management. And we see that IT is responsible, but there are a lot of other folks who are involved. This says to me that there's not an obvious owner. There isn't someone out there, a team, who's saying, this thing is mine, and the success of this is something that I will own. We've got marketing, digital media buying, customer experience, even outside agencies being accountable for data management. And then maybe some very worthwhile partners on the customer insights and analytics and e-commerce teams who are consultant, but not necessarily responsible for the effectiveness of personalization and data management efforts. Okay, so we've got data management causing a problem. We've got lack of IT ownership causing a problem. And this is leaving retailers waiting for the data that they need to make more dynamic programs. This was also something that Max addressed in his product roadmap, this challenge of some of the legacy technologies not being able to move fast enough to keep up with your hyper-adoptive customers. So in this case, we were asking folks to tell us, well, how long are you waiting for the data requests that you're putting into IT? And we've got 78% of our sample saying that they're waiting several days to get a query back to be able to customize a campaign. Now, the third challenge I'll say, but this is sort of an underlying issue associated with each of the previous two, is that existing technology today isn't providing the support that this sample needed. So we also asked our sample to talk to us a little bit about their existing technologies. How well is your current marketing technology meeting your needs? And we asked about a lot of different needs. So personalization, yes, but some of the other needs associated with things like scale, things like helping to automate manual tasks and things like that. And we found that for most of the respondents, they were not finding that their existing set of marketing tools were able to adequately support their overall goals and priorities. And so I've listed here the goals that we asked them to identify as the primary goals that their marketing organization has for the year, and then for them to indicate what percentage felt like their technology was adequately supporting those goals. And I highlighted here this idea of creating or increasing customer value, because I think this is the disconnect that's keeping companies from being customer obsessed. A customer obsessed firm focuses principally on creating value for the customer. And then business value comes from that. And if only 15% of retailers are finding that their technology is good for that, then they're probably not successfully creating customer value. So here's my idea. Here's my recommendation. Here's the thing I hope you can talk today with the folks at your table and with the Bluecore folks that are hosting you today. I want you to think about what a better technology could be. And I've got some data from this study that will give you some talking points in your conversations with Bluecore. But I believe that better technology can give personalization a boost. I mean, you may as well use it if it's out there. And so I'm going to give you a couple of ideas, some things that we found from the data that I think will identify what better is, and maybe point you to some of the things that you're seeing in your existing toolkit that you could work to change or to improve. So the first thing I'll note here is that I think what you need is a tool that can turn insights into action. And you heard this morning from Max as well, the idea of being able to analyze and then execute. So we asked our sample to tell us what are the critical pieces that you need to do personalization well. And that's the stuff that you see in the most important technology capability column. Then we asked them to tell us which types of marketing technology did they associate those critical capabilities with. And you'll notice a couple of things here. First of all, there's no one tool that they believe can do all of the things that they think are critical for personalization. And they tend to have a narrow expectation for what an email service provider or a campaign management tool can do. But there are a lot of pieces on here, things like identity resolution, things like figuring out one-to-one content or product recommendations that might live in your mind in a different type of marketing tool that I would encourage you to talk to Bluecore about. That maybe this is something that you could find that might be lacking in your existing ESP or your existing campaign management tool. Now, if you're thinking, all of this sounds like a lot of work, and you just heard from Jim about a lot of the leadership efforts that are also now things that you need to prioritize, I just want to give you a little bit of data to say that it's worth it. So this is still from the same sample that I mentioned, where we asked those retailers to talk to us about the value of personalization. Specifically, we wanted them to say, if we could do these things with less manual effort and automate creating personalized experiences, omni-channel experiences for our customers, what would be the gain? 62% said that they would see better customer loyalty. But we saw lots of concentration across a number of benefits associated with revenue gain, brand differentiation. And without personalization, you'll experience waste. And you see this already. You see waste occurring in terms of customer attrition, that death spiral that we mentioned this morning, the idea of having people buy from you and then disappear. You'll experience waste associated with your marketing spend, wasted product inventory, things that expire, or maybe margins on that product inventory that you don't take advantage of. Loss of competitive advantage, which is maybe the most terrifying thing in the age of the customer, where you have hyper-adoptive customers that are very willing to move from you to someone else who does a better job. And we see that this improvement that I'm associating primarily with personalization fits an improvement from omni-channel experiences as well. That making omni-channel experiences better yields positive returns in the same list of categories. Almost 60% of retailers expect they'll have better customer experience. 55% they'll have improved marketing measurement. 42% better ability to understand their customers' loyalty status. Now, outside of this study, Forrester does a lot of work around the value of customer experience. And I just want to close with some numbers associated with that. So in case you don't feel empowered by the challenges that are facing your peers, by the idea of improving technology in order to create better personalization and the potential lift associated with that, let me just translate the numbers on this chart to give you hopefully a lot of motivation. Forrester has a customer experience index. This is a numerical calculation that we use to calculate how good a customer's experience is at different brands. And we have modeled out the monetary value of increasing that customer experience index score just 1 point. And so I think you can see a few different industry examples here, but I'll point you to retail. So we've identified that if you just improve your customer experience by 1 point, that will yield $2.44 more per customer. Now, I did a little math, and you can too, based on the number of customers you have, based on things like maybe your average order size. But according to our model, if we multiply that based on an estimated 100 million customers, just improving your customer experience score by 1 point can mean $244 million in revenue. So here are the things that I hope you heard from me today. I know that you are experiencing changing dynamics in the work you do every day. And that is brought about not just because of consumer hyper-adoption, but because of the digital disruption of businesses that are also leveraging low-cost technology to introduce different business models into the retail space. That means that your relationships matter more than ever. And I'm saying relationships here, not just customer experience, because it's too easy to think about experience and it's hard to think about value. And so I want you to think about both. That when you build customer experiences, you are focused on building experiences that create value for your customers. And today, most efforts to improve customer experience backfire. Maybe because these companies aren't thinking about creating value. Maybe because they have old technology. Maybe because they're not prioritizing customers at the center of their business model. But I think a place for you to start, something for you to focus on, and a way to get a hook in this customer relationship is with personalization. And it feels like, especially today, at an event sponsored by a marketing technology that's focused on doing this, the idea of thinking about a better technology that can help you improve customer experience, loyalty, and revenue is an easy place to begin a conversation. And I think that from our study, the fundamental hang-ups are associated with data management, with this IT lag, are things that a technology and better automation could improve. So I'm going to leave you with my email address. I know my presentation was a bit data heavy, so if you think of some questions as you go through the day, or as you think just a little bit about some of what we're talking about, drop me a line. I would love to keep the conversation going. Thank you very much.